What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the newest episode of the Believe in Oregon podcast. I'm Zachary, Neel. He's Jonathan Stewart. Jay Stu. What's up, man? How we doing?
I'm doing fantastic, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Is
We
it
got a
raining
bye
up there?
week.
Is
It's
it raining
raining.
up there?
It has not stopped raining for a few days. We're
Yeah,
in the winter months of Oregon.
typical.
Yeah,
Northwest.
it's typical. Yeah.
Depressing.
We've got a bye week edition of the show for you guys today, so we're going to wrap up some of our thoughts on the 16-13 win over Wisconsin over the weekend and get into some of our take and bakes. We're going to open it up a bit after that and talk about the college football playoff, and then we are going to talk some NFL stuff. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk Wisconsin. It was a thriller. We've not talked about this yet. It was ugly. It was probably one of the worst games that we've seen from Oregon this year. But it was a win. And at this point in the game, a win is a win. What were your initial thoughts from this?
My initial thoughts were, thank God we have a good defense.
Defense is so good, man.
The defense at the end of the day might be the MVP overall throughout the entire season.
I think it is. Yeah.
Offense did not show up. I mean, yeah, there's 16 points there, but they didn't show up.
I mean, you're Oregon. You shouldn't feel good about 16 points.
No one should. No offense should feel good about scoring 16 points. If you're trying to be a national champion, you're number one in the nation, and you're facing a very inferior team, right? You were supposed to go in there and mollywop those guys. And you left me in Charlotte, North Carolina, biting my nails, stressed out, watching a football game.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way. And you know what? Like, I feel bad for Dan Lanning. He was probably stressed out on the sideline. You know what I'm saying? So, look, like, players play, coaches coach. And at some point, hopefully, this is a wake-up call for that team. Because you've had plenty of wake-up calls throughout the season early on. Now, we learned that Boise State, they kind of like that, okay? We get it.
They're
But
good.
you've had some wake-up calls that you've been able to overcome. What you don't want this to turn into is what we see with the Kansas City Chiefs. You barely win this game, you barely win that game, and then you lose a game that matters, right? Luckily for the NFL, they aren't in playoffs yet. They're not in playoff mode. You are in college, and you are college football playoffs is right around the corner. So you got to get your chips in order and start playing, the football that you can play. And I'm not too concerned about, how this the outcome of this game, 16-13, because it screams that a lot of times, as a player, you have a bye week coming up. And it's almost like it's almost like I saw this meme of this girl going up backwards, going up the escalator backwards. So it's going down and she's going up it. And everybody else is on the other escalator going up as it's supposed to. And she's going the opposite way. And she's, stumbling over her feet, trying so hard to keep up and get to the top. And she realizes when she gets to the top, it's just a couple more steps before she gets to the landing. What you don't want to happen is you tap yourself out. You get to the top and then you just say, man, I can't get to the top. I can't reach the peak. So this bye week is coming at a time to where you can kind of see this young group of guys feeling tired and worn out because they had a bye week earlier in the year. And we talked about it, right? We said, man, is it good that they have a bye week early and then a bye week late? And I said, absolutely, because they're going to need it. It's a long stretch. And if they prove to themselves that they can go and be the Grim Reaper that they've been, snatching souls from other teams, and get to the end of the season and get a bye week and then go into play UW, that's a huge success. So, and be able to just kind of get, your feet underneath you, get some guys back healthy. This bye week couldn't have came at a better time.
Not gonna lie, I had no idea where you were going with that escalator bit, but I thought you brought it home. Good job.
Yeah, good
Good job for
job,
you.
Yeah. That
Well,
elevator, that girl, if you see it, you'll see that meme. If you we'll put
yeah,
it up or something.
I'll find it. I'll
But
find it.
that girl was out there struggling, dog, and then she just gave up. She didn't
Yeah.
have a bye week.
Well, speaking of bye weeks, speaking of, bringing some guys back, I don't know if you saw it this morning, Tez Johnson posted to his Instagram story that he is back. So I think that
Okay.
that is incredible
Take your
news. It's
time, baby.
earlier than expected.
Yeah, take
I
your
was
time.
told it wasn't gonna be till early, December, maybe the playoffs, but if he's back for the bye week, they're back against Washington next weekend. That's
Yeah.
great. I think this offense could really use him.
And I'm pitch counting him against UW.
Yeah,
You go
right
in that
there.
game, strike fast and get your guys out
Yeah, I
and
agree.
treat this exactly what it is. This is a bye week, and then you're going and play UW, and then you basically get another bye week. So
Yeah.
just be super healthy going into the playoffs.
Let's take a brief or a short pause from the Ducks right now and revisit one of our favorite segments from earlier in the year. We're gonna go flying with the pros. Jay Stu, there are a lot of pro Ducks who are playing really well right now. In particular,
B.O.
some
Nix.
pro rookie Ducks.
B.O. Nix.
Yeah,
Man.
let's start out with Bo. He was first on my list, obviously. This dude's
Yeah.
been incredible the past 9 weeks.
Listen, you can't really call him elite yet because
Yeah.
he's got to do it for a couple years, but
Mhm.
he's well on his way. I can tell
He's,
you that.
he's getting better each and every week.
It is a match made in heaven for Sean Payton. And
Mhm.
I know you're just on Sunday just cheesing.
I'm
I'm
having
glad you
fun.
beat them Falcons too, by the way.
Yeah,
Them Falcons ain't had no
yeah,
business going to was it in Denver?
yeah. It was in Denver.
Yeah. They couldn't breathe up there, lack of oxygen in Mile High. Um,
Yeah.
but man, Bo Nix has been playing tremendous. I mean, just efficient with everything that he's been doing. I mean, there's been games where he hasn't thrown a touchdown. Run two
Mhm.
touchdowns in for a score. But that's just like Sean Payton. He has his guy. And if I'm Bo Nix, like this is legendary. This is
Mhm.
like a match made in heaven. You know, the world is his oyster as long as he stays healthy. And the guys around him just continue to develop. And the defense is playing solid. And when you have a defense that's solid, a quarterback and offense can just go in there and just do their job, right?
Yeah, right now he has the Broncos in the 7th seed in the AFC. We'll see if that holds. He's thrown for 14 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Well, that's not the whole story because he had a slow start to the year. We had no
Yeah,
touchdowns, 4 interceptions the first 2 weeks. So he's thrown 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions over the last 9 games. He's jumped up pretty high in the offensive rookie of the year standings in the betting
yeah,
lines. He's second behind Jaden Daniels at plus 350.
yeah.
I think it's super interesting because this just shows that like it's not just the talent in the player that makes them succeed; it's the situation they
Situation.
get into. Because look at Caleb Williams in Chicago. Dude's talented. I mean, he could go to any other team and I think be really, really good. You go to Chicago and it's just a death sentence for a quarterback. So I think
Yeah.
that Bo landing with Sean Payton in Denver, like you said, it's a match made in heaven. That's exactly the place that he should have landed to have a really good career ahead of him.
Gotta have the right system because Chicago has a lot of good players,
Mhm.
just bad system. I mean,
It's
the
bad
offensive
coaching.
coordinator don't know what they're doing. Like,
Yeah,
come
I
on,
mean,
dog.
that's why he got fired.
You got three dogs at receiver,
Yeah,
and you got a dog tight end, and you got a
yeah,
dog running back. You better score some points.
yeah. Let's talk about Troy Franklin too, just while we're on the Broncos. He's been playing really well as of late. His numbers aren't up there with some of the other rookie receivers. But he got 159 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's just been really stepping up over the past few games. He's still not the top target in Denver. You wouldn't expect that as a rookie, but it's been really fun. Like you mentioned, I've been really enjoying my Sunday afternoons watching these Broncos, watching my Broncos play with that Bo Nix to Troy Franklin connection, and I'm super happy that that's continued in my life.
Yeah, the Colorado Ducks.
The Colorado Ducks. I got Alex Forsyth too. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good
Um,
that's a good thing to have there.
Tell me about Bucky Irving. What have you seen from him?
Man, Bucky is becoming a staple. Rookie running back that can come in and understanding offense, especially in the way that they use him. I don't know if people realize how much information goes into being a part of third down packages alone. And then just all of a sudden now he's a first and second down option. Now that means the playbook is even thicker for you. And, you know, it speaks volumes to his ability and his football sense, his football IQ to be able to pick up a playbook his rookie year and do whatever's asked of him. I mean, that's basically what we've seen this year. Um, and his ability, it's really cool to see the things that he was able to do in college. He's almost doing it better at the NFL level.
Yeah.
Like the
It's been
way,
fun
like,
to see the NFL fan base kinda learn and see what he did. It's like, yeah, we've been watching this for the past few
yeah,
years.
like he looked like a little jitterbug out there sometimes, but
Mhm,
then all of a sudden he lays that boom on somebody, and he reminds them quick that he got that weight behind him too. So
mhm.
obviously watching him, in uh, you know, the NFC South, the Carolina Panthers, they're facing the Bucks twice a year. So it's going to be an interesting, uh, switch up here in the next several weeks. We
Yeah,
play them twice,
yeah. Good
and
luck stopping him.
yeah, it's going to be. We'll see. Our defense, the Carolina Panther defense, is doing pretty well as of
Mhm.
recent, and obviously they've been playing terrible teams, but confidence is king.
All right, we don't have a game to preview, so instead, I want to talk to you about the college football playoff and have a little bit of a thought experiment about what's to come and kind of which path we would like to see for Oregon going forward. It was confirmed on Tuesday that Oregon is, in fact, in the Big Ten title game. They did clinch that with the win over Wisconsin. I reported this on Saturday night, and I was told by higher ups at Oregon and in the Big Ten that no, they had not clinched because there was tiebreakers and stuff to go on. So I was told to retract that article, retract those tweets, and delete them. And then they announced today that, oh, hey, we were wrong, and they actually did clinch. So
So Zach was right, everybody.
mini victory lap for myself and the others who did report that on Saturday night. That's not what we're here to talk about, though. Let's talk about the college football playoff scenarios. At this point, it feels pretty safe to say that assuming Oregon beats Washington, which I think we both think they will do, Oregon will be either the number one seed as a Big Ten title champion if they win the Big Ten conference championship, or a number five seed if they lose that. Do you agree with that statement?
I agree.
Okay. So, for the sake, or what I want to do is look at the path that they might face because I was looking at it earlier and there's a potential case to be made that you may rather have the five seed than the one seed, just based on who you would play. So let's go through that. For the sake of this exercise, we'll be projecting the playoff field to stack up as follows. And again, this is not as the rankings came out tonight. They came out just before we did this. This is kind of how I predict they will look. For instance, they had BYU as the Big Ten champion and getting, one of the automatic spots. I don't think BYU is going to win the Big Ten championship. I think Colorado is. So I've got Colorado in instead of BYU, stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I'm going to give you two scenarios. Scenario A, this is how the seeding will stack up. One seed, Oregon, two, Texas, three, Miami, four, Colorado, five, Ohio State, six, Penn State, seven, Notre Dame, eight, Alabama, nine, Ole Miss, 10, Georgia, 11, Boise State, and 12, Indiana. That's scenario A. You don't need to remember all of those. That's fine. The only thing that switches from scenario A to scenario B is you flip Ohio State and Oregon. So scenario A is if Oregon wins the Big Ten title. Scenario B is if Ohio State wins. So it'd be number one seed Ohio State, number five seed Oregon.
Hmm.
In scenario A, Oregon, if they win the Big Ten title, would have a first round bye. They would then play a neutral site game in round two against Alabama or Ole Miss, and then a neutral site game against Ohio State, Indiana, or Colorado before getting to the championship. Remember those teams that they would potentially be playing. Scenario B, Oregon would have a first round game against Indiana, and then a second round neutral site game, a first round game at home, I should say, second round neutral site game against Colorado, and then a neutral site game against Ohio State, Alabama, or Ole Miss. Do you have any preference between those two? You either would play first round bye, or you first round at home against Indiana with a second round against Colorado?
Man, look, I would like a bye.
You think the bye is still the route, even though you probably have a tougher second round opponent?
Yes, because you got to think about risking injury, right?
Yeah.
And risking injury. These are young kids. At the end of the day, like everybody out there is not a NFL player. Let's put it that way, right? So
Yep.
you're gonna have guys out there that are tired, worn out, adrenaline pumping, doing things and trying to play hard and all those types of things. A lot of guys get injured during this time of the season for that very reason. So in my mind, like just make sure your guys are mentally stable and that you're preparing, well. You don't want to take it too light throughout your bye weeks. You need to make sure you're still going in there and having some type of sense of urgency in practices to where those bye weeks don't bite you in the butt. I'm more risk adverse when it comes to protecting the player, especially in college. This is a new, like, I mean, they have to play 3 games. You know what I'm saying, for
Yep.
Oregon if you're getting a bye week. But if you don't have a bye, we got 4 more games
Mhm.
potentially. So I would like to limit exposure to getting guys injured and banged up.
Yeah, I think I agree. I've always been in the camp like, yeah, you'd rather have the bye week and just not risk having to get injured and not risk, like we saw against Wisconsin, maybe you just come out flat. Maybe
Yeah,
you don't play your game. But then when I looked at it and was like, man, they could have Indiana and then Colorado. Those
yeah.
are 2 games that I think I would like to see because I think Oregon could win those by a large margin.
But a
Uh,
part of me, a part of me wants to see Oregon play an SEC team, like
they likely will before all said and done. They'll
like, and
probably
and do it earlier. Like, I don't want to wait. I want to see exactly what everybody wants to talk about,
Mhm.
and especially for Oregon, an opportunity, to people are drawing so many conclusions right now. Right now, they're talking about Big Ten and SEC. Which one is the juggernaut?
Yeah.
And some can argue either way. So let's prove it as early as possible.
I don't know. There's one of those 2 conferences that has 4 of the top 5 ranked teams in the college football playoff rankings. Just saying.
Yeah, just saying, guys.
Seems important.
But let number one play anyone. That's what.
Yeah.
That's really my mindset. But
Yeah.
definitely, I'm a bye week guy. If I'm banged up, I'm not trying to play.
Yeah.
If I don't have to, like, I'd rather rest up and be fresh as possible to give you everything that I got.
Yeah, I think that's where I am too. As someone who, if you're in the camp of wanting Oregon to go as far as possible and win the championship, you want to buy. If you're
Yeah,
a fan and you want a home game, a home playoff game in Autzen, that 5 seed looks pretty good, especially against someone like Indiana. Or can you imagine a home game at Autzen for the playoffs
yeah,
against Colorado? That
yeah.
would be incredible.
Well, hold on though. Wouldn't they have a home game?
Not if they're the 1 seed, no, because only the first round is, home game. So if you have that bye, that first playoff game you'd have would be a neutral site game, probably in the Rose Bowl if you're the 1 seed. I see you looking things up to check me. I know this. Trust, J Stu, just trust.
I know. I can't help it though.
Okay, that's fine, check me. I like to be proven right on air.
Um, just so that everybody knows, ESPN and college football do a terrible job of really just giving information.
Okay.
There should be something that just pops up. Type in home game.
Well, I know for a fact that only the first round games are hosted at the site of the higher ranked team. And then
Oh,
after
okay.
that,
It's bowl
it's
games.
all neutral site. They're all bowl games.
Okay.
So I mean,
Yeah.
basically the the biggest takeaway from this can be that number 1 seed or number 5 seed, they're both pretty advantageous. Those are the 2 top seeds you would want to get. So Oregon's either playing at home as a 5 seed or they're playing in the Rose Bowl after a bye as a 1 seed.
Yeah, just in case anyone was wondering, he was right.
Thank you. Music to my ears.
This whole time.
All right, let's on that note, let's wrap it up there. We won't be with you guys this weekend, obviously, without a game to recap. However, we do have something exciting to promote next week. I'm not totally sure we're allowed to promote this or be saying this yet, so I will cut all of this out if we need to. But we are bringing on Oregon safety Tez Johnson as a third co-host next week. It will be live streamed on Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific. We will be taking questions from viewers and fans, previewing the Washington game, talking to Tez for an hour or so. We got more details to come on both of our social channels, so look out for that. But that should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. J. Stu, you got anything to add?
You know, I'm really glad that it's bye week for Oregon.
Yeah.
When I tell you, I was stressed out, bro.
That was a stressful game.
It was a stressful game.
I kept telling myself that, like, you shouldn't be this stressed because this game doesn't matter. They can lose and still get into, like, everything is still in front of them. The Big Ten Championship,
you know what we want? We want to go undefeated for the first time in history of this playoff formula and the first time in history going into Big Ten. So we want to make sure we want to maximize this opportunity. Because think about it. You know what this does? If we go undefeated, number 1, and win the Natty, recruiting is going to go through the roof.
Oh my God.
Like, you're going to have to do a really good job of saying no to guys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got to tell people no. They won't be telling you no.
Yeah, so that's a good problem to have. And I just want the best for University of Oregon, man. I am a fanboy, and just want them to just dominate, just be that juggernaut.
Yeah, I think we agree on that. All right, on that note, you can check out more of my work at duckswire.usatoday.com. Follow me at Zachary C. Neel on Twitter. Follow J. Stu on Twitter at JonathanStewR1. And make sure to check out the Believe in Panthers podcast and the Stu and Crew podcast. For myself, Zach Neel, for my co-host, Jonathan Stewart, we will talk to you guys next week. Until then, take it easy.